What's up, y'all? So tonight I'm gonna be taking y'all like deep into my whatever this is. I don't know what this is, but I'm taking you there. Now let me say this before I even go ahead with this. This video applies to the people that it applies to. It's not going to apply for everybody, but I know personally it applies for me. I know it was knowledge left here for me, and I would like to think that it was knowledge left here for others too that didn't take advantage of it or didn't care to apply it or forgot it was there or didn't even think to look for it or whatever. So this applies who this applies to. And the reason why I put that speculation there or that quote there is because you could tell by the way this election just went with Kamala and Trump that everybody is not going to agree with this, but this is the format that I follow. And so, what was that saying that they said about us about if you ever want to keep them in the dark or something, put something in a book, they'll never find it because they'll never read it or something like that. Y'all know I'm going with that. But y'all, it's time for us to start opening our books because, you know, I like to call them forefathers, laid information out, Malcolm X and different, activists or whatever. They laid out blueprints for us. And I don't know why. Somehow we got tangled up or we wasn't paying attention or we was partying too much or it didn't cross our minds after they were gone that was the cause that why they died. They died laying out blueprints and information for us to follow. And somehow we got tangled up. So I want to help us get back on track. So like I said, this is not going to apply for all. It's going to apply for who it's applying to. And it's definitely going to apply for me because I'm right here reading it because I need to know. So this isn't nothing to try to swoo you over and sway you and make you believe. If you good in your belief or you good at where you resign at, then stay there. But like this is for me and people like me that's trying to get some understanding and was lost, but now getting back on the right path, from being tangled and tossed around so much and not knowing which way to go or just being disconnected and discombobulated, period. I'm back to get my show on the road, and whoever wants to come, you are more than welcome. I'd love to have you here, and Malcolm would love to have you here too. So this is, where am I at? I'm on the dailytribune.com. When blacks voted 80% Democratic, Malcolm X called them chumps. This is the blueprint for us been here this whole time. When blacks gave 80% of their vote to the Democratic Party in 1964, the black activist Malcolm X called them political chumps. Them voters, X said, are so evenly divided that every time they vote, the race is so close, they have to go back and count the votes all over again, which means that any bloc, any minority that has a bloc that sticks together is a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. Yet Democrats said Malcolm X failed to deliver on a promised and much anticipated new civil rights bill, knowing the party could still count on their blind support in their next election. You put them first, said Malcolm X, and they put you last, 'cause you're a chump, a political chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, you are dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party. You're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race. I'm just telling you what he told me. What would Malcolm X say about today's 95% black vote? Did the Democratic Party keep its promise to promote family stability, push education, and encourage job creation? The black community over the last 50 years has suffered an unparalleled breakdown in the family unity. Even during slavery, when marriage was illegal, a black child was more likely than today to be raised under a roof with his or her biological mother and father. According to census data from 1890 to 1940, said economist Walter Williams, a black child was slightly more likely to grow up with married parents than a white child. What happened? When President Lyndon Johnson launched the War on Poverty in 1965, 24% of black babies were born to unmarried mothers. Today, that number is 72%. Then presidential candidate Barack Obama said in 2008, children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of schools, and 20 times more likely to end up in prison. They are more likely to have behavioral problems or run away from home or become teenage parents themselves. Not only has family breakdown coincided with increased government spending, but the money has not done much to reduce the rate of poverty. From 1965 until now, the government has spent 15, 20 trillion to fight poverty. In 1949, the poverty rate stood at 34%. By 1965, it was cut in half to 17%. All before the so-called war on poverty. But after wars began in 1965, the poverty began to flatline. It appears that generous welfare system allowed women to do, in essence, marry the government, and it allowed men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility while surrendering to dignity that comes from being a good provider. Psychologists call dependency learned helplessness, whatever. About the importance of education, Malcolm X once said, "My alma mater was books, a good library. I could spend the rest of my life reading just to satisfy my curiosity." What would he say about the Democratic opposition to school vouchers, where the money would follow the student rather than the other way around? Urban schools where students are disproportionately black and brown are simply not producing children who can read, write, and commute at grade level. The dropout rate can approach 50% in some urban districts. Nationwide, 10% of parents send their kids to private school, but in cities like Philadelphia and Chicago, 40% or more teachers send their own kids to private schools. Democrats don't do black any favor by supporting race-based preferences in admissions to colleges and universities. Turns out, the more a school lowers standards to achieve diversity, the greater the chance the diverse student drops out. More than that, Democrats have convinced blacks that but for race-based preferences, black growth will suffer. Nonsense, respected researcher Stephen and Abigail Thurnstorm wrote. The growth of black middle class long predates the adoption of race-conscious social policies. In some ways, indeed, the black middle class was expanding more rapidly before 1970 than after. Finally, as to the economy, then chair of Congress Black Caucus Emanuel Cleaver, D-Mo, admitted with 14% black unemployment, if we had a white president, we'd be marching around the White House. The president knows we are going to act in difference to him in a way we wouldn't to someone white. Democratic policies have contributed to family breakdown maintained underperforming urban schools with no opt-out for parents, and have promoted tax spend and regulate economic policies that have resulted in a level of unemployment described as unconscionably by Rep. Maxine Waters D. Calley, a founding member of the Congress Black Caucus. So, would Malcolm X call today's black voter a political chump or political traitor? Larry Elder is a best-selling author and radio talk show host. To find out more about Larry Elder or become an Eldorado, visit www.larryelder.com. Follow Larry on Twitter. So, it turns out for the ones that I'm talking to, we should have been going Republican anyway. But I'm going to tell you who is my favorite president. Everybody has their favorite president. I know a lot of people's favorite president is going to be Clinton. But my favorite president actually was Ronald Reagan. I was a kid when he was in the office, but I was more happier when he was in the office. I don't know. I liked Reagan. Reagan just seemed like a good American guy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, maybe if I was too young to really know about Reagan or whatever, but he just seemed like a president, and I might not even know what I'm talking about because I was a kid when he was in the office, but just seemed like to me like life was so good when Reagan was in the office. That I think that's the only first president I actually remember was Reagan. And then later on, if I'm not mistaken, I think he went on to be an actor or something like that or something. But I don't know. I miss Reagan's smile, that little wave, him in his little navy blue suits and that little prestige part with that look. Reagan was my guy. I liked the Reagan. So if we could go back to the Reagan days, then I would love that. That would put a smile on my face. I just liked the Reagan. I don't know why, because I was too young. But my spirit just felt like overall he wanted good for America. You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't know the dirty did or nothing like that. I wasn't old enough to really understand, but if he was putting on a front, it sure was a good front, and I sure did fall for it. But I liked it. Ronald Reagan and was it Nancy Reagan? I liked it, that combo right there. I don't know. I just really felt American when Reagan was in the office, and it seemed like after that, all these other presidents start coming, and it seemed like stuff started getting tougher and tougher, and I didn't feel so American no more. But yeah, so y'all, we need to start opening our books and dipping our heads down and getting in our books and start finding out what's going on, because they said that's why we don't know what's going on, because they putting stuff in books and we ain't reading them. I don't know about y'all, but I'm going to keep mine open. Or y'all can come here and I'll educate y'all on what I found. Love y'all. Mwah.